Shift Command N. Sound. Sound engaged. Zencaster link. Clicking. Clicking now. Good morning.
Morning.
You like my transition?
That's great.
Microfiber transition.
You're supposed to be wearing something like really seductive after that, though, I think. Just like the TikTokers.
I did get pretty wet on the way in, so you're lucky I've got clothes on at all.
You wipe it down and it's just, you see the hoodie and then the hoodie's gone. You just have the coveralls.
Making content already.
Can't wait. A clap first for once.
Let's do that. 3, 2, 1.
Whew.
How are you?
Pretty good. Ricky's out today, so it's just me, and I'm got locked into a lot of computer work, and I always like those days when it's just quiet and focused. It's like a weekend basically, but I'm still here working.
Nice days off in the shop.
Yeah, there you go.
What are you working on?
The Shopify build thing. I can't decide on a theme, so that kind of stops the whole workflow. So many options. I was chatting with Jay a little bit about some advice on Slack, and they were just
cool.
just I use this one because I like it, because there's just so many, and I have a good experience with it. Yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's what it's about ultimately.
Yeah,
it's just committing to one that doesn't look terrible.
they don't look terrible. There's a couple I like, but it's interesting how variable the feature sets are and what's all built in already. Like you're saying, I don't want to customize it to death, but you can't start to build a page with this new 2.0 theme system thing that has all the cool blocks or whatever they call them without choosing a theme. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing sometimes.
Did you look at Flex?
I looked at it, but I also just don't want to I don't want to have the same one as you guys have.
Yes, we'll be judged harshly if we have the same Shopify.
All these people
Everyone will notice. I mean, we've told them now, so
just everybody that listens to this has the same Shopify theme.
Burn it down.
Shouldn't have told us. I have a little surprise. Cool. Top of the list here. I created a subreddit for the podcast.
Insert cricket sample.
I don't have that one yet. I have this.
That was what you needed at the start as I revealed my...
We'll put that in later.
Soggy self.
I forgot about it. Dang it, that would have been perfect.
I'm going to sound either old or I don't know what. What's a subreddit?
Reddit, it's just the kind of place in Reddit where there's a topic that you can then subscribe to and make posts and comments. I'll send you a link.
Is Reddit a place where you hang out?
I used to a lot more. I don't know. I guess I don't know. It's zeitgeist use, but it used to be the viral place of the internet for a long time. You would, find stuff there, and also things would get published. People would want to get on the front page of Reddit because it's just millions of people seeing that. And not trying to go viral here, but just I know other podcasts that have a subreddit, and it's a place that's not, well, I guess that you can consider it social media. I consider it more like a forum where you can communicate about things in specific. And who knows, maybe nobody uses it, but it took all of 10 minutes to set up. So I'm just gonna leave it in the show notes. But I did completely skip your "How are you doing?" segment, and because I was excited about the subreddit.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Been better? Yeah. No, I'm all right. I think a little bit down, I think, generally.
Oh, man. Anything you want to talk about on the podcast?
Sure. I think don't know. Look, everything's fine, generally, in the greater scheme of things. But I think I am struggling a little bit with the identity shift of no longer being that guy who makes stuff. I think it's been long enough now that I've been off the tools that I'm really sort of, struggling a little bit with that transition in terms of feeling useful and valuable and Also, it's just, it's been 15 years of kind of hustling and creating things using tools that has formed my identity, who I think I am. So like shifting away from that in the current business trajectory and model has been a little bit difficult, but that's to be expected.
Yeah. I guess my first question is, does it have to be an absolute thing? I mean, you have choice in these things, so I'm sure you can find. It's probably just more, I guess, if I had to kind of read between the lines, is that your primary role and tasks doesn't supply you with the same kind of like what you like, the challenge and the kind of like experience of kinetically doing things to create things rather than being on the other side of that.
Yeah, true. Like there's not really any reason why I'm not still able to get up early and come in and tinker on the pencil sharpener as I was and feel sort of validated in that R&D process. But I think there's just a bit of a sort of a compounding effect going on at the moment where I'm not getting up early enough, and so I don't do it, and then I feel crap about the fact that I haven't done it.
Yeah, no, I know that feeling.
Compounding on itself a little bit, and then I continue to not do it. I don't know, a bit to unpack there. I'm also still reading this Less is More book.
Oh yeah,
and about degrowth, and it's heavy going. Like I think it's a really important book to read, but bloody hell, it's making me question a lot of things about being in business.
Yeah,
and when I'm feeling up and inspired, I see it as, I see great opportunity and potential to make change and do something important. But if I'm not in that sort of bouncy up state, it can just be very, very sobering, depressing as well. So,
that's interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel for that. Like I've been there. I mean, it's part of why I chose to get away from the job shop work, because I just kind of felt myself sliding into this, like, is this what I'm going to do for the next 20 years? Because the longer I felt we were reliant on that, it was never my intention in the first place. And like, I just didn't, I mean, unfortunately, probably the business was never big enough that like there was a whole team of people surrounding that thing being supported. Like there, it could have kept growing. And I think the more that kept growing, the harder it was to pull away from it.
Yeah.
I was talking with some friends about business stuff the other day, and it was thinking like, we're all kind of not great at business because we choose things so emotionally. I don't want to do this other thing that was making us money. And that's basically like the only reason, but maybe I should have. Maybe that was the best business choice. And it's really hard to take that subjectivity out of like, is this what I should be doing versus is that the right, like if this business is like its own, it's like a child you're trying to care for, but you like don't really have to care that much for it. Like you don't have to always pick the best things for it. Yeah,
it's hard. I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of on the bomb, John and John were talking about Saunders surprised me out of nowhere, saying that he's been thinking about and not against the idea of hiring a CEO, which was just like, I mean, like when I think of CNC business people, like he's like the CEO to me.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get that.
I get that, and I read into that, however, incorrectly, that could potentially be a similar response of wanting to stay on the tools.
Exactly.
And be involved.
Yeah. He said that. He's like,
not wanting to be sucked away into just business strategic stuff.
I think he said specifically, I would have never thought I'd say this, but, I think of myself as pretty good at business, but I've moved away from, and now I'm starting to think I'm potentially better at machining than I am at business now. Yeah. And I definitely like the machining better. And I totally get that. It's like every day that I'm stuck just sitting at this computer, it's like I run away at 5 p.m. and like, I got to finish this part before I go home. Like it's like that desire to like, I mean, we both came through kind of a similar school, and you kind of get into that based on your interests in the first place, where it's so much driven around what you're, I don't know, I'm sure you made a lot of physical prototypes, I imagine, in school.
Terrible ones, yeah.
Yeah, but you're a lot of hand making things. And even my wife, like she was really good at model making, and she always, like she sews a lot now. And that's like one of the ways she sticks with that. But I don't know, I can't imagine that going away, for me anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I made terrible models at school. We didn't really. I always joke that we didn't really learn how to make anything in industrial design other than like crappy spray painted MDF models I used to paint in my dorm room. No, it's really interesting, that point about replacing yourself with a CEO. Like at the moment, I feel like I really see the value in growing a team, and like it's been really rewarding delegating big chunks of my role to people over the last year or so and seeing them grow. It's been fantastic having John replace me as lead machinist a year or so ago, and just seeing him like really flourish in that role and smash it and do really well. So like there's great value in doing that. And whilst concurrently sort of really missing being that person, so kind of holding both of those things in the one hand of like fantastic to see someone develop and grow. Yeah, whilst also kind of being jealous of the job they get to do. And so I think I've done that more and more, also with some of the sort of production management and also some of the business stuff with Sarah. So yeah, I think, I was chatting to my coach a little bit about it the other day, and he was saying, this is just one of the transitions you're going to have to go through and get comfortable with. And everything's changing all the time, and it's just getting used to it and embracing change. I don't know.
I like my reaction.
That, or you
go ahead.
Or you do the knee-jerk reaction and go back to like being a solo operator.
You're all fired. I'm running all the tools.
Goodbye. I've had friends do that in their businesses. Like they've grown and grown and grown, and then they've got to a point. I remember, I won't name names, but someone I studied with grew quite a successful business, probably around our size in terms of staff.
Yeah.
He came back from an overseas trip one day. He was just like, I just want to go back to being the guy on the machine. And he shut it all down and closed the shop, and now he's just tinkering away. It's just him.
I've had that discussion with multiple friends, and I feel like after we moved into this shop, things changed for me in that the discussion with my wife and how the risk of buying a CNC, put it in our garage at home, and then move to, eventually to the small sublease of a sublease, basically open space for a year, was like, well, within a year, if it all goes to crap, we can afford to pay that, crappy lease, and we'll move everything back. But now it's like, it's probably bankruptcy, is the only out, at this point. And that feeling goes away. Like there's definitely, I could find ways to run it down, but I definitely, in our conversation about less versus more, I still have myself thinking like, we need a bigger shop, I need a bigger space. I want to add more machines, but, they're not all even busy at this point. So it's like, there's a kind of a disconnect there for me, for sure, of like my desires versus reality of business. So
yeah,
I got one idea for how you could get your hands dirty still every once in a while. Is you weekly or maybe monthly or something, you trade with somebody for a day. They can be boss for a day, and you get to do their job, and it would help kind of like see the inefficiencies potentially that they're dealing with, and then they would potentially get an experience of like what it's like to make some decisions. I don't know how you give that kind of...
That's cool.
I don't know.
I like it. Well, that was a heavy start.
All right. It's good.
Cheers.
It's coffee time.
It's always coffee time, Don. I've got an update on last week's QC situation on the pencil sharpener. So after recording last week, I jumped out there and fiddled around. So it was, what's the expression? TIR? What does that stand for again?
Oh, yeah. Total include
run out.
Yeah. Run out.
It was a run out issue just on the top spindles. One of them must have taken a bump in the last week. Thankfully, John got in on Monday morning and was like, oh, cool. Okay. I know which order I machined these boxes of parts in. I can go back through and try and work out where the point was. And he did work out where the point was, and it wasn't that long ago. So thankfully, we only lost, 10 or 15% of the parts from that week, which wasn't too bad. It could have been a lot worse. And it was a good kind of reminder of how we should be QCing things and checking stuff. And that's the thing. It wasn't that he hadn't been QCing. He was doing it pretty frequently, double checking stuff. It happened relatively recently and snuck through.
Sure.
And then I'd run some legacy code, which had slightly more extreme offsets. And so suddenly with the legacy code, it became really apparent that there was something wrong. Whereas his parts were sort of still just within tolerance. And so he hadn't noticed towards the end of the week.
I would imagine, they know very little about finding ways to do thread checks, but I think you can like measure the inner and the outer threads, but I don't know how you make that very accurate. Like it's not like a go no go gauge other than like your twist test, which would still work, but like just calipering the threads, I guess. But then how you do it on the ID, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I know. The plan is to set up some sort of twist test, maybe with a torque wrench.
Ooh,
so that it's not dependent on, John's a rock climber and he's got very strong grip strength. It would be unfair for the
best product ever.
The tolerance to be based on his grip strength. So, yeah, I think we'll get our hands on a little torque wrench and set up a little jig so you can just like, boom, boom, drop it in, give it a twist. Yep, passes. And then that can be checked, every morning or a few times a week or something.
That kind of makes me think, you've probably similar to me, like, I think I watched this forever ago, but it's the first or second shop tour Saunders does with Jay Pearson. And he's like showing him how they assemble parts. And it like now looks pretty dated. And Pearson's shop is like so different because he's moved like twice. But it's just really cool to see like the guy, Pearson just has this like clock-like brain, but just everything's perfectly set up and the processes are perfect. And there's just some really interesting stuff. So I'll put a link. And one of the things they had made I don't even know the right words, but it's basically like a torque wrench style like thing that they twist in the bottom of their pallets with. So instead of trying to align this like little insert, it like magnetizes to it and you just put it in and twist until it stops and then it's perfectly set up. It made me think of your like torque wrench scenario.
That's cool. Yeah, I wonder if Jay Pearson's like staying, I don't know, has he developed that sort of lean shop, those systems? Like I wonder whether he was like in there late at night after the employees had gone, like tinkering with all the stations, like making instructions, or whether he's the personality who's capable of doing that kind of as part of the job. I would find it really hard to sort of focus in on that level of detail as part of a working day.
What's interesting, I mean, that kind of parlays into another discussion I wanted to bring up, but I've recently been looking at their website. And they have like very few products. Like it is very, I mean, there's accessories to those things and they make a lot of sub-assembly parts, I think. But I'm just kind of like impressed as well as jealous of how simplified and good their products are. It's just like we sell 3 types of things. That's it.
Joyous.
And it's such a great business that I was surprised. I had like in my head, I was like, oh, they've probably expanded more things, It's like 3 things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had a moment last night actually cooking dinner of what if I just went in the morning and just culled off 90% of the product line? So much stuff on our website and a lot of it sells in very low volume. How important is all
that's an interesting
to drawing people in? Does it serve a purpose just to sort of capture attention from lots of different people and then pull them into our top sellers, or is it completely superfluous? I don't know. No.
It's kind of like why I've never turned off my desk thing. I don't know that it ever had any attention. I had a couple of good runs of like social media or like probably Reddit, honestly, posts that bring people to your site, right? And it's like if that just goes away and it's a black hole, it's probably an SEO hit. So what is the version of that? It's like an RAP version. Like, this product's dead, but check something else out. Yeah, I have the same thought.
Kind of want someone like a really confident marketing person to come in and be like, what are you doing selling this bed? Get rid of it. How many units do you sell? 1 a month? Cool. Kill it. Someone with external perspective who can just whip us into shape.
I mean, one would, like, if it was detracting from your ability to make and sell your best products, you get rid of it.
Yeah, right? That's where the gray line is. Like it doesn't.
Yeah. But it also is like there's like
the files are developed.
I've noticed that too. It's like when you have to go back to make something that's old, you haven't done it in a while, you either make mistakes on making it again or nobody can remember and you haven't documented it well. Things are, it's like this, it's almost like this story of lean over again. It's like you haven't done it enough that you haven't created good enough processes that it's, I don't know, there's definitely something there. There's another bomb conversation that was really good. And I think Saunders posed the idea of like, so let's say you got hit by a car and we're in a coma for 6 months and they hired me to come run your business. What would we change? What would I have to make those changes? It was like really eye-opening of what if, what if what would I change in your business if I had to come I'd have to pick up an accent first of all.
It's a fun experiment. I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe next week we can report back on the one change we'd make in each other's business.
What's your one change? Counting up machine numbers is interesting. And the only person I really heard ever talk about it is John Grimsmo, who somehow figured out how to do it in whatever controller he has, where it like serializes his tools, and
he's doing it in G code somehow.
Yeah, magic.
No, we've got this project machining lockers, and each door is going to have a unique number on it because they're lockers. And it just occurred to me last night that we shouldn't be modeling these locker banks with numbers 1 to 80 on them in Fusion. We should just make a single dedicated setup file, because we're going to machine the doors from the back anyway with the hinge cups and stuff.
Yep.
So then John will be putting them back on the machine one at a time to quickly engrave a number in the front. So my brainwave was like, cool, we just need a single setup file to do that double-sided operation. And within that, you've just got a text box that you can quickly edit the text, repost the code, edit the text, repost the code, basically as you're standing there by the machine. But I was just thinking about, he's wondering, curiosity, whether you've ever come across any way to either using parameters in Fusion or sort of at the G-code level to count up.
Closest I got was Grasshopper labeling things in model making in school. Yeah. And it would like bind a piece of text curve to the part, and when it got nested, it would be with it, and then you could engrave that or cut it. But I don't think that's a very easy problem to solve, but I also haven't tried to. So I'm sure somebody's figured it out, and Grant Grimsmo might tell you how he did it. It's probably very specific to his machines, though.
Exactly, yeah. Grasshopper's great at stuff like that.
Yeah. I wanted to be able to, like, we talked about this. I had somebody on staff that did a little bit of not CAM programming, did that too, but it was more like computer programming. And we had talked about ways to make
real programming.
Yeah. To generate little G-code files for the router specifically of like, let's cut a rectangle, or like it was, kind of like a drop down creator of like type in sizes, and you could cut out drag knife a box, like without needing to set up CAM, because that was such a messy process for that specific thing. And honestly, that's just one of the things that Fusion sucks at, is it's not fast. Like it's fast in that if you want to go from design to manufacturing with a file, that's pretty quick. But like, if you just want to like quickly dump out a file, I would probably choose like vcarve, because it's like way faster.
Yeah, I feel like that at points too. And then I sort of catch myself thinking, I haven't done the hours in Fusion that I've done in Rhino.
Yeah.
And, I haven't bothered to set up a good shortcut workflow in Fusion ever. And yet, every time I reinstall Rhino, I spend an hour carefully setting up all these shortcuts and mouse mapping and stuff just so I can work really effectively. I think Fusion can, yes, on surface value, it is slower, but I think it can be pretty quick if you set up good systems.
Yeah.
Files would open in a timely manner. That irritates me.
Oh my God. I mean, the program is basically always open, because if I have to open it again 7 minutes later.
Oh, no, it just reminded me of how I learnt Rhino, because we did a semester of Rhino at school. And I hated it. I thought, what is this nonsense that's not SolidWorks?
Oh,
what a waste of time.
What are you using before that?
Yeah, we were all trained in SolidWorks and we were pretty addicted to it. So then we're introduced to this like curvy lines and surfaces stuff. And like, this is nonsense. I then got a job after school working for a sculptor who did a lot of inflatable sculptures. He had Rhino, and so I got this job and had to work in Rhino because that was his native system for what it dabbled in before. And sort of, that's where I got good at it. But it's fantastic for making big inflatable sculptures with parts that have to be unwrapped and rolled out and cut on a plotter and then glued back together again. They all have to be labeled, and fantastic for doing stuff.
Unroll is so cool. Take a surface and flatten it out. Yeah, it's definitely like a maker's, I would just say the Swiss Army knife. Like there's so many ways you can use it that it's like, if somebody's thought of a way to do something, in 3D CAD of some sort, you can probably do it in Rhino. Like somebody's done it. Yeah. You can paste a script in somewhere and it will like do it for you.
Yeah. Such a deep tool set. Laura's been doing some, she's putting in some proposals for some new public artworks at the moment. And so she's been trying to animate, because another sort of LED fiber optic concept, and she's been trying to like animate within Rhino these sort of point clouds of a possum walking through space, but like all animated in point clouds.
Whoa.
And like we've spent a few evenings on the couch, both in Rhino, trying to like muck around to work out the best workflow to make these simple sort of keyframe animations. Great fun.
Yeah, that's wow. Crazy.
Fusion.
Kind of a endless problem that never goes away.
It's a good question. How do you fix messy fusion models? I don't.
I was going to say that too.
Start again.
Don't. Dang it.
No, I really don't.
Yeah, I kind of do the same. Like in particular, this model of this fork came from somebody modeled it and it was pretty rough. And then quickly, I kind of like adapted it when we were making the first set of, I'm pointing to the tool fork on our ATC for the router. And I adapted it for this version, which is basically like subtracting and making small modifications.
Bit of cheeky direct modeling.
And now I'm trying to go back and model it, tweak it just a little bit more. And I'm at this place of like, I either change it now or it's forever a disaster. And I'm trying to think of like what's the fastest way to like take apart that it's not like super complicated, but it's got like, you know, curvy surfaces that are swept and like some of it's parametric. Like this stuff in the back is parametric, but none of the front is. But the only thing I can think of is to potentially, this sounds kind of crazy, but like insert it into a new file and kind of like trace it, but do it parametrically.
Trace it, but not project off it.
Not project off of it, yeah.
Forever.
No, yeah, I would like draw with it. One of the stupid problems of Fusion is you can't have two windows open. So like I can't measure stuff off of one onto the other. I guess I could have Rhino open with it as a side piece.
You just measure, or if it was me, and I can't quite tell how complex that part is, but I would measure all the features and write it as a list of parameters in a clean file. So every feature is just a parameter in the list, and then remodel it. But
yeah, I was going to definitely pull some, use the export import CSV file thing. There's a really nice little application add-in called Parameter IO, I think. And it just lets you basically dump out CSV files of your parameters, and then you can import them back into another file.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Pretty handy.
I have to check that out. Might save some time setting up the same parameters over and over again.
Yes.
Cool.
You just gave me, I don't know why I've never done this before. God, that's really stupid. I have like a template Rhino file that's like on our website for people to like upload files to us. The little layers are there and stuff. But then I was just thinking like, why the hell have I never done that for Fusion? Like start with a file that's like, I don't know what you say, like plywood design or something. And so it has like length, width, thickness,
stuff,
dado, rabbit, and they're all there. And you can change them if you want to. Why haven't I done that? It'd save a minute each time, but God, that up so much.
I did that, and I find Fusion's file management so clunky that I don't bother opening the template folder to go and find that file every time.
That is true.
Again, it's just about the systems I've built and being a bit sloppy.
That's very true. And the search is like basically useless.
Useless. Don't get me started. I love the next one. I'm not going to talk you out of buying a Pearson pallet.
You're not going to talk me out of it?
No way. It's someone else
Come
to
on.
do
that. Be my accountability buddy.
I want one of those.
Me
don't
too.
even have a machine to put it on.
Well, you probably could put it on your router. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, I mean, it's like one of those weird things where like, it's like how I learned Fusion was I was watching Saunders videos before I needed to use Fusion. So then I was like, oh, I can design in that. And then, oh, I have a CNC now. I could use Fusion for that. And it was like I was learning these things before I needed them. And so then I've been watching these companies, Saunders and Grimsmo and Pearson, and like, those palette changers look cool. I don't need that. And now it's like, well, kind of want one of those because I have the right tools for it now. And then they're doing a sale currently for, they didn't go to IMTS. And so instead they're doing 15% off. I'm sure by the time this is out, the sale will be over, but I put the link in there in case you're interested in the code.
Oh, that's such a nice website.
I was going to say, you like, you're going to get one now? I have to get a Pro Pallet System for the router.
Have you come across those videos on TikTok of that Irish actress reacting to the wood chopping guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just felt like her as I opened the Pro Pallet System. I just kind of melted and wanted to scream into my pillow.
Oh God. Yeah, it's
So
pretty clean.
delicious.
The only criticism I have is I don't like that it's two separate sites, that their like marketing is separate from there. And you can barely tell, but it's like the navigation changes and stuff like that. And I'm going through the same problem of like, I'm going to combine all my websites back again once I move to Shopify. But how do you make it not this disaster of like two different navigations? And not that I think theirs is, but.
Do you know what system Pearson's website's built on?
Don't, but there's a website called builtwith.com, and you put in the URL and it creates an error. I want to say it was like Magenta, because I tend to look at this stuff. Yeah, the website's great. I mean, all of their like, it's like whoever he's hired or outsources video content making to is like very good.
On point. All right. That's enough swooning over Pearson. So you're definitely getting one of those. Good. Check.
Thanks for sucking me out of it. No, they're so freaking sweet. Like, it's kind of a lusty tool thing, but I mean, I'd considered it, but the price seemed, it still is it's a lot when you don't need it, for like efficiency. I'm not doing that much, but I mean, I'm designing pallets that don't go on that currently, that'll go on a faster change system. So it's like, is that just I'm wasting my time and effort there? And so I emailed them today and asked a couple questions, because like basically I want to put a pallet on it that's larger than what they recommend or what they sell already. And I was just curious whether or not that's just a terrible idea, but they're pretty great, pretty fast. It's so genius. So genius the way that like you pull it up and it uses air pressure to like create a vacuum.
Yeah, super cool. Speaking of websites,
it's WordPress, by the way. Yeah, more like sales and just general business strategy of like, I've probably said a few times that I've been rethinking all of my choices about pricing and like strategy, where I feel like as of yesterday, I had this thought of like, when I started Portland CNC in 2017, there was like very little competition for doing the odd jobs of like the harder CNC routing things. And so it was kind of easy going to win jobs, and maybe my prices were lower, turnaround times were maybe faster, material was the optimal price. So there's all these things kind of going well, maybe for everybody, but we just had that one niche. And for whatever reasons, like very, very low like inquiries for the last few months. Part of that, I've raised rates because of what I think, over the years, like we've gotten better at certain things and our value is there, a lot of regard. But then also like in the last 6 months, I raised the rates because like inflation was out of control and everything was costing more. Yeah. But then, in the last few weeks, I've just been like, man, I don't know. I think I got to do something here, because we're just not winning jobs for cost reasons, or, half of that is sometimes just the material is also crazy expensive. And altogether, it makes it either non-competitive potentially with other people, or altogether, it's just not a good price for the customer to continue their project. So yeah, it's just second guessing everything, my choices of the past, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when you go to your website, it's very evident that you do contract CNC, but I remember like when we started recording this, and some of the people on my team were like, who's Justin? What does Justin do? And like, it sort of became apparent that they might have only seen you on Instagram, or they were just looking you up on Instagram for the first time. And I think the way you present the brand on Instagram is quite, playful, and it's same as me. It's like whatever you're interested in at the moment. Typically, yes, you've done a push with your product more recently, but like prior to that, it was kind of a bit more sort of ad hoc and just whatever you were sort of interested in at the time.
For sure.
And you've got that great educational sort of YouTube focus as well. So I think maybe it's about what you put out there too, in terms of what you get back. There wasn't a sense from those people on my team who were discovering you for the first time that there was no clarity, I suppose, of like what service.
I see.
From that Instagram face, at least, obviously very different on your website, but yeah, in terms of what you're putting out on Instagram at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I guess so my history of starting Portland CNC through maybe today, which it's definitely grown and changed via where we get inquiries from, but it's almost, I mean, for the longest time, it's like 90% from Google, like people finding a search.
Yeah.
And then, over time, let's say Instagram has grown and maybe a little bit of YouTube, and we'll get a few people from those sources. But yeah, I've definitely been talking mostly about like dust boots and things that we're trying to obviously promote or talk about that seem important. But I guess maybe this is wrong. Maybe I should think about it differently. But I don't think of Instagram as a place where we're going to grow a local business from, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you feel that differently?
Yeah, I think I feel differently about that. I think I find it very anecdotally very effective. Growing
interesting
local leads
for both types of work, like retail and
interesting. Sure. I think because it taps, whether they're direct leads or whether it's sort of that word of mouth of like, oh, who do I know who could do something like that? Oh yeah, I've seen that guy on Instagram. That makes stuff or has those machines. Why don't you talk to them? So it's not necessarily that the lead is coming because they've seen a video. It's like, word of mouth is so powerful, but
yeah, definitely.
I think, I think Instagram definitely taps into that too.
Yeah. Kind of a weird complaint in that I definitely intentionally moved away from doing a lot of job shop work for so many months. And so there's some of that, like, let's say regret, or I don't even know if it's regret, just second guessing of like, how stupid was that, to go with this idea of making products as our primary effort for a while, which has turned into like, I'm still stoked. I think there's a huge potential still with different products we're working on.
Absolutely.
But it also is just really tough when you don't sell as much as you used to make in job shop work. It's a rough transition. So still in that phase, it's definitely turning. I feel like now that the dust boots are out there, they're through most probably your videos as well as other people, seeing it and seeing that it's available now, or it's picking up, I think, in terms of sales, and like people are curious to try it with other types of machines too, which is interesting. We've had a multicam in the States here. Somebody bought one, an AXYZ. Bunch of people with Lagunas really want to try it, but I'm pretty convinced it probably wouldn't work just based on the way their ATC works. But anyway, babbling.
Has anyone taken you up on the test fit guarantee?
It's kind of like people have done it without choosing the test fit guarantee button. They're like, it's not compatible, but I'm pretty sure it'll work. And I'm like, sometimes I'll follow up like, hey, I want to make sure that, just basically reaching out like, I'm curious how you think this is going to work. And if it does, I'd love to know about it so we can like confirm it for other people. And
absolutely.
So it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. Following up's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Like neither of us are doing the kind of volume where it's not impossible to follow up with every single customer. So you can get so much out of that, both in terms of ongoing sort of support from that customer, but also just that simple thing of like direct feedback. How did you go?
Yeah,
what were the instructions like? Could you follow the instructions? Like,
do you do any type of like post other than like requesting reviews or something? Do you do any type of post, either post job or post product delivery, like feedback request or something?
We don't have anything set up for product sales at the moment. We've kind of talked about it a lot, and we don't know the best. We're not comfortable in terms of the best way to push that out. We don't want something that's sort of pushy, like leave us a review now that you've got your thing. We want it to be sort of more helpful than that. We haven't come up with the right recipe. But in terms of custom work, we do a post-job follow-up with every single custom job.
Wow.
And it's just sub 5-minute call of like, how did you go? You happy with everything? And often with custom jobs, that kind of just happens organically. But we do try and force ourselves to follow up on everyone and just be like, did it arrive as expected? Did it go together okay? Like, you happy with that thing?
Do you mean custom product design or custom, like you just make parts for them off of like a file they provide?
We do very little of that sort of work, but anything that's quoted is what I call custom.
I see, yeah.
So, if it's not a direct sale on Shopify, then it's some sort of custom quote, whether that's custom product or CNC cut parts or joinery or whatever.
Yeah. I just happened to, I was kind of looking back as you were talking about my Instagram, and I was like just staring at it as you were talking a little bit there. And I was like, what do you mean? This isn't obvious what we do?
No, but that's that. Yeah, I'm not saying you should post more contract CNC. Oh, that baby pants image. It's fantastic. No, for the record, I think it's fantastic that you're focusing on product. But it's hard to know where to put your energy too. It's like, it's good to have that balance of work, and
Yeah.
it's hard to know how far down the rabbit hole you should push.
Well, I mean, the very, very like simple, I don't know if I've talked about this kind of very publicly, but the very simple comparison that's easy, and maybe a lot of people that listen to this have similar business scenarios, is if we do a $500 custom job, you say like a job shop job, like everything has to go right typically for us to make profit on that because of overhead, because of the time it takes to set that job up and communicate it and all those things. The overhead, just 500 is the minimum we really do because of those reasons. And if we sell a dust boot that's $500, like that amount of time is already, it's now being amortized, right? All that design effort, all that stuff is amortized into, now we just theoretically keep making the profit rather than the profit, having to be constructed every time. The labor that is, there's assembly obviously, but it's more fixed. Everything's fixed. And unless something goes drastically wrong, it's just so much more. It's like every time we sell one, it feels like I just did a $500 job shop job, but it took me 5 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just so nice as an experience, and it feels like you're doing the right thing anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we've been chasing that product percentage for years. Like it's always been a smaller fraction of our work, and for years and years we've been trying to make it the majority.
Yeah.
And failing. And part of the reason we're failing is because we continue to hang on to the old safety net of custom work. We've had an inbox that's been overflowing with inquiries since the beginning. And so it's very hard to like cut off that safety net and say, right, product it is, let's go.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Well, we should probably wrap things up.
Yeah.
But my quick recommendation is that article in The Prepared this week, which features a lovely photo of your work.
Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't read it yet, but they contacted us. It's about Baltic birch, which I'm interested to read, but they contacted us about using some photo of Baltic birch. I sent them a few and they picked one, and very nice of them to use it.
Yeah. Are you in the Prepared Slack channel? No.
Nah. I know people that I actually don't read it religiously. It'll come up every once in a while. I'll read something, but I know a lot of people really like it. I suppose my recommendation is from my friend Kyle. It's where like a book club, but with links. Not a read, because I don't read very much. Is my friend Kyle sent this to me and another friend. I just subtitled it enough, but this guy Kevin Kavanaugh did a TEDx Portland talk. It's like 2018. It's quite a while ago. But just a good conversation of his experience with losing a lot during the recession and how he came back from it and how he changed his business and tried to make things more equitable and help people through daily efforts of his work, where he's trying to do it more as like a everyday we do good things kind of effort, I think. It's maybe I would summarize it.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
It's pretty short.
Sounds on topic.
Yeah, it does sound like something you'd like. We both like. There's never enough CNCs, though.
Never.
Okay, till next time.
You okay?
I said till next time.
No, and I said, are you okay?
Yeah. Is this a trick question?
Yeah. No.
I was very stressed out earlier in the week, but then we pushed back our home cabinet scenario. We were like rushing to finish our cabinet install so that they could come and measure for countertops. And then we realized after Monday that we were nowhere close to it being ready.
Yep.
And so I'm much less stressed out now. Now it's just normal stress.
Cool, man.
We did the crickets button. Where the hell's the crickets?
That's not crickets.
That's all I got. This is how you end a show, right?
Just mashing buttons. Mashing buttons until it stops. Okay.
I don't know how to stop
Bye.
this. Bye.
Good chat. Just get all those sound bites. Sweet.
I finally figured out how to
Burn me once with tea.